All right, so here we are at the opening page after InDesign opens up. We're going to create a new file here. And there are a bunch of sizes for us. Ours is going to be a little bit different. We're not doing web or anything like that. It is print-based, but instead of 8.5 by 11, we're going to do a 2.5 by 3.5 size card right there. All of this other stuff we can kind of keep open, and like I usually do, I'm going to give you kind of a quick version of looking through this so that you can kind of see what we have. Once again, just like in our other applications, you have the ability to go to Workspace and choose other ones. I actually really prefer to use Advanced, so I'm going to switch over to that so I can show you a few more things. And then if we have a bunch of things going over here, remember you can always hit reset to get everything back to where you want to. The first thing we'll look at is, as always, our tools. A lot of this is going to be going a lot quicker for us because this is very similar to Illustrator. You have your direct selection and your selection tool. Those work just like they would in Illustrator. You have the ability to change your page. You can also change that size by going to File, Document Setup, and change it here. I would prefer that you do that. It really doesn't make sense if you're doing a publication to change the size of your images from page to page, but that is an option. You have this here, which is the gap tool. If you have columns of text, you can kind of change the size of the gap. This right here is a little place where you can put a whole bunch of content in, and then if you switch over to this button, you can then take the content out. It's not something that we really need to worry about too much, but I will show it to you when we work on laying the card out in a little bit. You've got your different text styles, text on path, and the regular text. Just a regular line tool, the pen tool, which works exactly as it does in Illustrator. The pencil tool, also something that works very similar to Illustrator. Then you have these frame tools. This is if you're setting up a template for something, you can set up your frames for what you want and then later put them in to have them sized properly. Your rectangular, ellipse, and polygon tool. This works just a little bit different. So before, if you press up and down, you actually are going to increase or decrease the size. Here, you can actually create a little bit of a grid with spaces between them. All right. I think you can actually use this gap tool to change where that gap is. So you can see that right there. You have the scissors where you can cut through things. And then this is really important. The scale tool. Now, one of the things that you will notice and that you will see me do probably is instead of changing the size when you take an image in and resize it, it will actually crop it. So the quick shortcut for that is S, and that will allow you to scale it. And that's S on both PCs and Macs. You've got your gradient swatch, your gradient with a transparency, note tools, color theme, selection tools, all of these very similar to what you had in Illustrator. The hand and the zoom tool, once again, both of these very similar to what you had in Illustrator and Photoshop. I would highly recommend you just use that space bar and the Command plus and Command or Control plus and Control minus options. Down here, things are a little bit different. You've got an addition. So you've got your fill, your stroke, and then you can also go in and affect your text as well. You can also put a stroke on your text, which is something I'd be a little bit careful of, particularly putting a gradient stroke on a text, which you can do, but I don't recommend. You can turn your view options on here, so rulers, frame edges, etc. And then you've got your options for viewing there. Up here, you've got your contextual toolbar, so this will change depending on what you're in. If you're in a font, you can get all your font information. If you're in here, you can get all that. And then over here, you've got some very important tools. You've got your pages. This is the way that you can add or subtract pages. Your layers, which you can still use. Links. This is really important. And one of the things I'm really going to talk about and stress with you all is making sure that everything is organized. If you move things away that are linked, you'll lose the actual image there. So we'll do a demo of that later on. Then we have our stroke, very similar to our stroke in Illustrator. Swatches, gradients, all of that pretty much the same as in Illustrator. Our libraries, which we don't use but can be very handy if you're working with a bunch of other people. Effects, object styles, paragraph styles, and character styles. These are really important, especially if you're working on a publication or something like that, where you want to make sure that you have a consistency with like your headers or your body text. All right. When we get back, let's start up with the idea of creating a background for our image in Illustrator.